saved something crazy, like 75 to 80% of their listing labor costs. And they called me back and said, Eureka, we want to start a software division and provide this service to everyone in the industry across the world. And that's how it was born. So that's the backstory. So I am an engineer. I was at Google as a director of public policy research initiatives between 2014 and 2019. Then I worked on contract for the United States Air Force Research Labs. And the Listernaut Commander theme of today in your invite, I wore my U.S. Air Force Research Labs Team Top Gun Indiana shirt for you guys. That was a material science project making a framework for data sharing across the whole industry. Okay. Now I work at the Indiana University School of Medicine, and I make AI-driven systems, retrieval augmented generative systems to help Alzheimer's patients with resources and tools, scalable 24/7 in their homes, so they can get respite care for their informal caregivers and things of that nature. We're a dementia-related research lab, geriatricians and neuroscientists. So that's what I do during the day, and then I'm on the board now. I joined Listernaut, and I work with Bert and Jeff and Mel and the rest of the team on this software. That's who I am. That's what I do. I should mention that how this applies back to Listernaut and to you guys might be interesting to you. I believe you have to have a goal, all of you, all of us, every human, or you will run in place and spin out of direction. You might have a very efficient system, but you're trying to get to California, but you wind up in Texas instead on accident because you lose sight of your goal. So my goal is to leverage technology to reduce human suffering. That's kind of my pre-qualifier for getting involved in a project. So how does Listernaut reduce human suffering to me? Why did I choose to join? Because I know that 15% of the proliferation of Alzheimer's disease is based on pollution. And by you guys re-commercing products and not throwing them in landfills, we are reducing potentially some aspects of amyloidosis in the human brain by not having unrecyclable plastic number 6 going to landfills, for example. So that fits me. And then the second reason is no money, no mission, right? So that's my altruistic mission, my personal goal. Then I know to get there to do it, there has to be money to support it. And by working with you guys, because Listernaut operates on a usage-based business model, our success is completely based on your success. If you guys aren't efficient and profitable in re-commercing and auctioning products, then Listernaut cannot be successful. So we are truly strategic partners with all of you on this call, no matter how you look at it and slice it. So that is who I am. We can start from that basis, Jeff.
I gotta get my mic off. There you go. I was trying to drown out the Legos in the background that are being dumped on table. Can't see them now, but there are lots of Legos. So anyways, on that note, thanks, Mark, for that beautiful introduction. For any people who are still on the call and want to turn the cameras on, Mark likes seeing pretty faces and helps him interact with everybody. So if you're not driving or have the ability to, throw your cameras on. We will have some questions and answers at the end. But first question I wanted to ask Mark is, how are businesses using AI and what trends have you been seeing?
Okay, good question. So let's start out with how I would define AI and machine learning. Machine learning for me, my first real exposure in depth was at Google for 2014. There was a gentleman at Google named, he's a professor from the University of Toronto named Jeffrey Hinton. Jeff, I don't know if it's totally accurate to say that he created computer vision completely, but he certainly created the best version of it. And the world seems to agree because this past year, earlier in 2025, actually, he won the Nobel Prize for his work there while we were there. Let's separate what I would call traditional AI, all right, from what's happening now, which is agentic AI. They're related, but they're not the same, all right? All right, so let's start with traditional AI. Now, some people might say, man, AI has not been around that long. How traditional is it? That's somewhat true, but remember it's math. So you could argue if you abstract it away, the concepts go back hundreds of years, linear regression, Bayesian mathematics, if you're not familiar, it has to do with, it's not if then like in conditional statement computers. It's given that event A happened, now the probability of event B has changed. All right. So, in other words, a coin flip is not Bayesian. A coin flip is 50-50 every single time. It doesn't matter if it was heads the first time, the second time you flip it, the probability of heads or tails is still going to be 50%. That's like anti-Bayesian. It's more determined, set probabilistic. It's linear. Bayesian has to do with, are there any gamblers on the call? I got a couple hands up. I know Jeff is a gambler. Think of it as a
Anyone in this space is.
yeah, that's a good point. If you're an auctioneer, you're a gambler by definition. Imagine a 7-team parlay bet. All right. You pick 7 teams, and the odds of winning that is like 1%, maybe at best, right? But after the first game is over, the odds change, right? It's if the one of your teams loses, the odds of you hitting your parlay becomes zero probability. One of your teams wins, the probability goes up. 2 teams win, the probability goes up. And every step in the chain, that's changes the probability. That's Bayesian mathematics. Okay. So the point is that's hundreds of years old. So I could argue that traditional AI goes back to math itself. Now, if you want to say, okay, Mark, but that's not the AI we're talking about. Okay, let's go back to Alan Turing in the 1940s, who cracked the Enigma code, which essentially won World War II, right? He built a computer to do that, and then he wrote a famous paper, and some of you have seen the movie called Imitation Game. He was talking about AI. He defined singularity, where you can't tell the difference between a human and computer back in the 1950s. So for me, traditional AI is not that new. What's new is the hardware, the GPUs from NVIDIA, and the infrastructure, the fiber optic networks, the satellite networks that make the speed of the infrastructure of the world now capable of executing this math and this massive data processing at the rate needed to be useful to you on your phone talking to an LLM. Okay, that's traditional AI. That's where we've been at these last few years since Gemini and GPT and ChatGPT and Mistral and all those came out, and they continue to come out in DeepSeek and so on. That's what I call traditional. This year is the year of agentic AI, which is taking that AI technology and connecting it to all your other services and platforms and other AI apps. And then the important piece is how much autonomy you're going to give that system to make decisions for you, because either it's mundane tasks that you don't care about that much, like clearing out your spam, or you become a true believer and you decide, man, this computer is processing this data so much better and faster than I can. It's actually a better buyer than me. I'm going to turn it loose on the buy side. That's not a binary decision. It's not right or wrong, but the capability is becoming that. Now you could choose to do that if you want to. All right, that's agentic AI. So those are my definitions of AI and machine learning, at least in terms of those two categories. So how is that being used was the question. How is that being used? Well, clearly at Listronaut, it's being used in your item descriptions, titles to speed up the velocity of your cataloging. You're not logging into Amazon separately, I hope. You're not logging into SD separately, I hope. You're not logging into all your different platforms individually, one at a time, I hope. You should be using Listronaut to aggregate all that. If you're not, then you're in the right place to figure out how to do it. And it's being used. I mentioned Jeffrey Hinton. We built, our computer vision recognition software on his basis of his discovery and his platform, like a lot of people are. And it's being used in a multimodal capacity. Multimodal meaning you have text, speech, imaging. That's the three main types of AI, the three different modes that are being used, and we combine those to produce, your product descriptions in an automated fashion. Uh, connecting those capabilities to other services like your email marketing or text message marketing, your SMS platforms, your catalog offerings, your upcoming auctions, and letting AI work for you to schedule auctions and to set pricing, do all that. That's the next step. That's the next piece that I see happening in this industry. So I can give a lot of examples of how I use it, at the IU School of Medicine and other factors, which I did mention, some informal caregiver avatars I think that we're building. Um, One thing I'll say, which is indisputable, if you have confidence in an automatic system that you built, in an autonomous system, the beauty of it is it doesn't complain. It will work 24/7. It's basically a commodity fee thing. It's not. It doesn't go on strike. It doesn't take uh, leave. It doesn't take vacations. Uh, and that's the beauty of it in business deployment applications that I see.
So one of the other questions I had, Mark, is what are some of the specific tools in List or Not that are accessible to this audience, and how will they help their business and their pipeline grow, so to speak?
Yeah, well, certainly we talked on the biggest one, which is product recognition. Um, that let's talk about. Let me give you. I don't want to. I work in a research science lab, and that research science lab has a certain academic slash medical terminology, and I'm going to try to use as much layperson terminology as I can to make it as simple to understand as I possibly could. So I capture the audience. Um, in Where am I going with that? So we talk about significance and efficacy in research, right? Efficacy is like how probable is it that this thing that you did caused the effect? You did something, you got a positive result, but can you prove that the thing you did created the positive result? That's efficacy. And then there's significance. Significance is like impact. You could We run across a lot of critics. We produce in medicine peer-reviewed papers, and then PhDs read those papers and they tell us why they're bad. All right. They criticize our efficacy, but they lose sight of the significance. And how I see that happening in the auction business is, here's a perfect example. Someone uses our AI technology, they get a product description, and the product description isn't exactly the way they would write it, you know, and they say, I don't know if I like that detail. That's not the way I do it, yada, yada, yada. Okay. You have two options. You can quality control that. We have an edit button. Okay. B, which is what I would do, I would think about the significance piece. How many products are you doing a week, a month, a year? And is it worth it to debate with the AI over whether your human product description is better or the AI product description is better? And how do you even know you're right? Because that's a very subjective truth. By subjective truth, I mean your perspective, my perspective, what I think is a good description might not be the same as what your customer, which is the most important, thinks is a good description for their decision making and their beliefs and their biases and their reasons for making the purchase on their end. So, in my world, we would be forced to do an A/B test. We can't just say, I think this is better, I think this is worse. Can't do that in medicine. You have to say, We ran a test for 12 weeks among 1,000 consumers, and 800 of them bought this product with this description, and 200 bought this product with this description. Therefore, the 800 sales are better than the 200. Does that make sense? Makes sense. Okay. So personally, I would say that letting the AI do the descriptions is a much more significant positive impact to your business than worrying about sentence structure or one or two things are there missing. And honestly, if you learn and get good at writing your tones, writing your prompts, and you perfect that, it's going to eventually do it better than your employees will because there's going to be less variation once you have your AI tones dialed in for your different categories. Did that answer that question?
Yeah, that was great. On that note, when you're thinking about biases and how AI affects things, one of
Yeah.
the things that you could think about is one of the Hall of Famers in the baseball Hall of Fame, some baseball guys here. Does anyone think of Vince Coleman as a
Mhm.
Hall of Famer?
And he's in the
And
St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame, just to be perfectly clear about that. But yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you could explain the relevance of the Hall of Fame and Vince Coleman in this discussion, it would be great.
Sure. I guess the point that Jeff's trying to get at, if you look at Vince Coleman's stats, he wouldn't jump off the page. He didn't hit 300 home runs. He didn't, I mean, he wasn't that great of a player to jump out to you. But what he did do was he was very efficient. He got on base and he scored a lot of runs, kind of like that Moneyball movie. He was a Moneyball guy, back in the uh, St. Louis Cardinals championship teams days that Vince Coleman was on. And he was just he was significant. He had a significant impact. His efficacy wasn't Hall of Fame, Barry Bonds type numbers or Ted Williams type numbers, but he had a significant impact on run scoring. So he was a really good tool. Um, Let me try to put it this way. In the beginning of this intro, I told you guys that my mission was to leverage technology to reduce human suffering. All right. So AI to me is like the crowbar. You have a concrete job on a job site and you got to lift a big 700-pound piece of concrete off of some pile of junk. You wouldn't do that with your hands, right? You put the crowbar in there and you'd leverage it, and that's your tool that you're going to use. So we got to look at AI as just a tool. And at the other end of the crowbar is a human. That's you. You've got to have some skill in order to leverage the tool properly. And that's the analogy that I would make.
Yeah, on that note, one of the other things you brought to my attention about a month ago was how Listernaut is using AI and how we're different. And what it came to was what you described as assembled innovation. And I think with the people on this call and people who are going to be viewing this
Mhm.
presentation is every auctioneer, every reseller is different in their unique way. And how we come together as a group to solve the problem is one of the unique things we all bring to the table. And one of the things I like to talk about is that assembled innovation that everyone on this call I see is doing in some fashion in their business. So if you can explain that, how that relates to AI, Mark, before we
Yeah.
get into any questions, we've
So
got a couple minutes.
awesome. The assembled innovation is about modular systems. Okay. Taking one piece of technology, hooking it into another piece of technology, and the the sum of its parts being greater than the whole. Okay. When I was a kid and before me, let's go back to like NASA and when you had punch card computer programs written in Fortran and old school banks that use COBOL, kind of dead languages and computer programs were siloed as one monolithic program. It just that was it. It was all in one file, let's say. And now it's completely the opposite. You have call and response and webhooks and APIs, and there's one module here as a plugin, one module here as a plugin. We use multiple AI data platforms, including our own fine-tuned models that are open source. And you just kind of like I talked earlier about the agentic AI being, the year of 2025 is about agentic AI and connecting things. That's what is referred to. I didn't create this. That's an old assembled innovation has been around for a long time, but uh, identifying which tools and processes are already existing available to you and how to connect those to make a more powerful system instead of recreating the wheel. And putting those all into one system is how Listronaut has grown. I mean, we're close to a frontier lab in some of the cutting edge things we do in terms of fine tuning models and retrieval augmented generation RAG system, pulling back and bringing it through prompts for purpose. But we didn't like invent computer vision. We didn't invent large language models and fine tuning in that. All we did was assemble the technologies and create a system and method from going point A of receiving product to point Z of shipping it. That's assembled innovation, and that's how our AI works. It plugs in to all these different components, like the different modes that I talked about. It's using one computer vision model to identify the product, then it's using a context-aware LLM to write the description, the title. Then it's using your prompts to put it in the tone that you want it. And those are all different parts of the systems that connected together make the magic.
That's perfect. And in that example, as Bert and I drove from Indianapolis to Urbana today on Highway 74, we
Hmm.
probably passed about 12 billion square feet of distribution centers on
Hmm.
the highways. And I think in using the dissembled innovation and the change of consumer behavior post COVID, it's the consumer is not going to the malls or using their online platform, and thus the growth of these distribution centers. And I
Hmm.
think again, the people in this category and channel, how we pull all that technology together to solve the problem is what we're really getting at. And AI is being a tool to get us there quicker is one of the
Hmm.
things that we stress.
Hmm.
And in using that assembled innovation in every part of our business, because we're not a Starbucks where you go in, you buy a coffee and you get a drink and a product that's already made and manufactured. We're manufacturing things and experiences as we go, and leveraging AI is going to be a focal point. My last question for you, Mark, is how can this group of people explain AI to their customers to make that leap from AI not only easier for their customer, but for their staff and the growth of their business?
I think that's a really important question. I don't know if I mentioned for a couple of years. Yeah, I did because I said I was wearing the shirt today. Maybe this was before you guys got on the call. So this is a U.S. Air Force Research Laboratories project that I worked on for a couple of years. And what we did at the Air Force, when an engineer thinks of a plane, a target system, we call it, a new technology to make it faster jet. It takes approximately 15 years to get that jet up in the air. So what I worked on was a process um, to have all the suppliers share their data in a little better way that would be faster and more efficient. And that problem was what we call a socio-technical problem. So sociology, human problem, technology, computer problem. Okay. The question that Jeff is asking has to do with human behavior and adoption of new technology. Change. People are averse to change, right? They have a system, they're used to the system, they have reasons why, they have biases that they don't want to change. They don't want to change because of their belief, they don't want to change because of they just are uncomfortable with the change. So that's the socio side of it. And that's what we tried to crack and had some success cracking. And one of the things we do in healthcare systems, we look a lot at behavioral economics. I'm going to start. I know we're getting ready to open it up to the group for questions, so I'll just kick that, I'll just start there. Do you think that humans make behavioral decisions rationally or irrationally? Anyone want to answer that question?
Both.
Both is the answer. I mean, that's fair, accurate. How about more? Which one's more?
Depends, woman or man.
Yeah, it's context dependent for sure. Uh, there's another Nobel Prize winner that studied this a ton. Great book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's about system one and system two that your brain uses, subconscious and conscious. Turns out your subconscious, not deep thinking brain operates and keys your decisions almost 95% of the time, believe it or not. We had the gambling talk earlier in the conversation. The gamblers, the house has the advantage, but you still put your chips down at the casino because it's fun, right? And you know that it's, stacked against you. It's an irrational economic decision. Stock purchases are quite often made irrationally. The market knows this. People make short-term stock play decisions all the time that are completely irrational against the math of how they're going to win or lose. Um, um, so the choice to not taking it back to the question, AI is out of the box. This is happening. We can't put it back in Pandora's box. It's going to be the most efficient solution for making computer-aided decisions. It absolutely can process massive amounts of data that no human could possibly even attempt to do. So we have to use it to our advantage and figure out how to leverage it, and that's what we're doing. People who don't want to adopt it, don't want to change their behavior and put a working model into their workflow, that's an irrational bias decision of some kind, some way. So in healthcare, this actually happens all the time. Um, everyone knows that one of the reasons they have problems with diabetes, one of the fastest growing diseases in the world for years, is because they don't exercise properly, they don't eat properly. It's not just about the insulin, it's about human behavioral choice. And they want to change and they intend to change and they intend to get up earlier and work out and they want to eat better but they don't. Why? That's a good question. So as leaders, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, if you want to scale and grow your team, I promise you for sure, I've learned this, you have to figure out a way to cultivate a culture in your organization that makes people want to embrace change because change is inevitable. I'm just going to make that claim. That's my hypothesis. And I've been in business for 35 years in different businesses and worked in a lot of big organizations. And I've seen it over and over and over again. And I just want to share that and let you guys think about that deeply. And utilize that to your advantage in some way, shape, or form. We talk a lot in our organization about psychological safety, letting the best ideas win. That's kind of a process of making sure that people have in your organization, as you grow, have the ability to push back and question things, but not irrationally. Not irrationally. You got to get people into the system two mode and use their system two conscious decision-making ability to realize what's better and what's not based on data, objective data, not subjective opinion. Because if what we see happen all the time, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. If you have an employee in your system who is wrong, but they're loud, they can adversely create what we call the intersubjective truth. They could win the the democracy inside your organization and convince everyone that this suggested behavioral change is a bad idea, even though they're wrong, and then the majority of your team doesn't adapt the behavior, and then your adoption of new systems, new whether it be software or whatever, doesn't happen based on something that really isn't true. That's what we call a socio-technical problem. Um, and it kills more businesses than anything else. I don't know. I've been rambling now for 38 minutes. I feel like I want some comments and some feedback and questions from. Does anyone, am I helping you? Does anyone feel like they've picked up anything today? And do they have any comment, question, or feedback for my 38-minute rambling this morning so far?
Well, I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of it was really helpful. Just new things to think about, and that's appreciated. I guess, well, I'm still new to this, and we're doing it on kind of a really case by case basis with the list or not stuff.
Yep.
Um, with obviously the goal of this expanding into something much more encompassing, with more than just a little subset of what we do. Um, and I guess I'm just kind of fascinated about the room there is to expand and like grow the operation as far as like it's still a relatively new technology, and it's like gas cars were terrible when they first came out in the same way electric cars were terrible when they first came out. So it's something so new. I guess I'm just excited to see how uh how it gets better over time.
Yeah. So let me unpack that for you. Charlie, where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Indianapolis. I think I went to West Lane with your son, Noah.
Are you real? Wow.
Hmm.
You guys want to have a feel good moment for a second before I answer Charlie's
Oh,
question?
sure.
A feel good moment. Yesterday was my 54th birthday, and that text that I got from my son, Noah, who Charlie knows and went to middle school with, that's amazing, small world, was happy birthday. Everything you do makes me proud to call you dad.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a
So
good
there's some
feeling.
feel good vibes for everyone. All right. So, Charlie, a couple things. Start with strong foundation. All right. Computer science, machine learning, AI. If you try to learn everything all at once, you'll just drown in it. It's happening so fast. It's proliferating itself. You have agents making agents. It's going to drive you nuts if you try to stay up on every single piece of the technology all at once. Try to eat the elephant one bite at a time. Okay. So, start with the understanding of what has the most impact, like I talked about earlier, on your business. Whether it's buy side analytics, okay, getting into this tools we have in Explorer, we're starting to provide you guys with some buy side analytics that's going to get better and better and better. Or it's sell side analytics. If you're using Shopify, for example, on the e-com side, and I don't know what you're doing, if you're doing mostly e-com or you're doing auction, or if you're more of a hybrid person or not, but whichever, the sell side analytics. We're going to provide more and more AI-driven analytics for you guys. And I'll give you an example. I think I talked about this on a call yesterday with Alan. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. We're giving in Explorer right now mean and median uh, pricing when you get manifests and you upload the whole manifest and do the analysis of an entire manifest all at once. There's also an analytics tool in there that pulls all the available data for what that product is selling at for retail on Amazon, eBay, etc. currently. And it's giving you a mean and a median. And what we haven't done yet, which we'll do in the future, so this is getting into what's happening next, we're going to give you guys the mode. All right. Mean being the average, median being where the data set is centered, which means that the outliers skew it less, right? So the average is good for certain use cases where the area under the curve is a normal distribution, right? Your product variation is not that much different. So then that's when average is helpful. But if you have something that's skewed, like if you have a lot of $20 products and then all of a sudden you have $1,000 product or one $10,000 product and you try to use the average, it's going to give you kind of a false data. It's going to give you bad data. It's going to say that your average product price is like $70, but really it's more towards the $20 range. It's just that $10,000 one is skewing your average. So median in that case is better to use. You want to know what the wheelhouse is of the products where you're living, your niche. And mode, I think, will be even more valuable for like Alan because he's focused on smalls, so he wants to know the mode, the most common price category, right? So in a data set, you have let's take a number. If you guys don't know mode, let me try to clarify that. Just, some people might not. You have a 2, a 3, a 3, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 10, a 12, whatever. The mode of that data set is 3 because it's the most common number. So on your buy side, you can figure out what your most common either purchasing price is for your niche that you're working in by the mode, and we're going to give that to you in a dashboard as we move forward on the Explorer side for sure. And if you don't know, Listernaut is broken up into 2 systems. Explorer is geared more towards bulk uploading and mobile. We're trying to make it as mobile friendly as possible. And then Listernaut itself, the Listernaut legacy system, we call it Galaxy, is your enterprise system where you launch, your e-com and your auctions from. It maps your data formats and connects and does all the connections like we talked about out to your multi-commerce. Okay, Charlie, does that helpful?
Yeah, that was great. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Got a
Anybody?
couple minutes left. Anyone else have a question? One of the things you'll find is Mark's contact information's on listernaut.com. So if you have any questions that you don't get to ask or forgot, send them over. Mark@listernaut.com is his email. That's the easy one.
I'm a little confused on something. Was this a listener training or is this a general overall AI training before I ask a question?
This was a general AI question or general AI overview, but we can handle those individual questions if either or.
Now, I guess the question I would have is the, for AI and whatnot, obviously the biggest problem that I have, Jeff, as you know, we just ran 2,200 lots roughly with you guys on List or Not. And I think the biggest problem that we had was maybe setting up the tones for those lots because everything was so diverse. How is it that we can make tones efficiently and quickly when you have a diverse, or a diverse input of equipment on a very fast basis? You said getting your tones right was the main, was
Yeah,
the main thing.
Yeah, let me try to unpack that one.
you got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll go for it. A couple of different ways, suggestions, and it's not going to be perfect and binary. That's a perfect question and something that we're tackling as hard as we can, as fast as we can. The way it works right now, the tone is kind of unleashed on the whole pod to an extent. So how you reset up and receive your products from a manual standpoint could help. Like you could sort them into categories, create pods for those categories, and some people have done this. Lion and Unicorn down in Florida comes to mind. If they have ceramic figurines, they sort those into ceramic figurines first, and they have tones for those. They have a lot of Yadro collectibles. They sort those Yadros into a category, and so they create a pod for the like-minded categories or the similar categories. Okay, and that would help, I think, tremendously. So you have a tone for each category, but that would definitely involve you, changing your receiving process, building those assembly lines. That's one suggestion that I would have. And the other thing is, um, we're tackling this pretty hard. This is something that's coming in the future, the ability to set tones on an individual lot as opposed to the whole pod, but it takes a lot. That's a lot of engineering work, and we are working on it, and it is a priority for us. So we're helping, but we also have suggestions on how you can massage it in its current state.
Well, all right. Well, I mean, and your build side, I mean, I probably have quite a few suggestions on that to help you out. But
Mhm.
for me, I don't have a warehouse per se. All right,
Gotcha.
I walk into a facility that's a live facility. We're not receiving anything. We're actually inventorying an entire facility. So without running around back and forth to try to do the same things over and over
Yeah.
again and having stuff, um, number wise, in no particular order throughout the whole facility, it wouldn't make sense to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
And
an
what we're
that's an
talking,
a very valid point. That's an edge case that has to be addressed separately for sure. Um, and the best answer I can give you is it's a tough cookie to crack, but we're working on it for sure. I don't know, Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that one?
I can't keep a secret very well. So with the new camera feature, we are building the ability to change the tone per lot.
Yeah,
Let me say that again. With the camera feature, we'll be able to change the lot or change the tone per lot and then go back and reformat that if needed. It was really, at the demand of people like yourself, Brandon, who don't want to generalize and don't want to call it an estate, but Brandon does more industrial warehouses. So everyone is different, just as an estate is different and every estate is different. So, we found the need to be able to change the tone per lot in the Explorer version, which will give us speed and flexibility.
one
So
other
that's
thing,
coming. Uh-huh.
can I ask too? In the Explorer part, is there a way to be able to edit to speed edit? All right, instead of clicking on each individual lot to be able to edit it, can we get something that's more like an Excel format to be able to scroll through and edit on a basis of, you know, 50 items or, 30 items at a shot, 50 items at a shot to be able to go through instead of having to click through each one for manual editing?
you're on mute, Jeff. You just muted yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Being able to edit in the grid format, we put that feature in place with the coding on the Lister Not Enterprise or beta version, as we call it. So that's available with probably a handful of fields. To answer the question, that's a great suggestion, and we'll put that on the roadmap on our Monday developer conference.
So now we're
Thank
getting
you.
somewhere. Now we're learning from you guys. That was the goal here. That's a mission accomplished. I can retire now. You guys have got you've created the loop. The feedback loop is complete. Thank you.
I could go 5 hours on this, so I mean,
Hey, Jeff has the luxury of the personality. He will do that. So if you want to stay on the call for 5 hours with Jeff, he'll probably do it. So that, kind of leads into what's coming next, and maybe that'd be a good place to end, in the interest of respecting everyone's time. Explore features that are coming pretty soon, and I don't want to overcommit and underdeliver. I try to do the opposite. But for sure, that edit by lot in your flow is going to happen. The ability to hop back and forth very readily between camera feature barcode scan on your mobile phone, which I think is going to benefit a lot of you guys a lot, and then quickly, if the barcode either fails to return an item because it's not in the system, or just an item that doesn't have a barcode, you can in your flow switch over to AI, so you don't have to back out. You can go back and forth barcode scan from your phone, AI code, back to barcode, back to AI, back to barcode, back to AI, boom, 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 which I think is going to be a very useful feature for a lot of you.
And Mark, one more
On,
thing.
Yep.
uh-huh.
Oh, because this was a problem I ran into last week, and Jeff and Logan were working on it. They said they could manually edit it into something else on a different build out if we wanted to, but I was giving it some more thought afterwards. Basically, we ran into an issue in pods where we had duplication where Jeff ran one, set of items, and then Logan ran another set, so we had duplication of numbers.
Mhm.
Um, is there a way? So in list or not right now, you'll have an item. Let's just call it 43,000. All right, and that's your list or not number, whatever it is. Is there a way to get that down to an individual code where, let's say you had a customer, maybe an alpha code for the customer at the beginning dash, and then whatever their numbers are, so you don't get reruns of items. So if there's an item 43,000, there can never be another item 43,000.
Yeah, my
Back
short
in,
answer,
and there can't be a
absolutely.
duplicate, and there
Yeah,
can't be a duplication of that lot.
yeah, I understand. And my short answer to that is that's definitely something that can be done. Let me think through the implications of, as an engineer, I'm a problem solver. And I used to, when I was younger, uh, have the fatal flaw of as soon as somebody came to me with a problem, I'd immediately be all excited to fix it. I'm all about helping people and let me build that immediately. And the problem with that is you end up building a lot of things that shouldn't exist. So let's think about the unintended consequences of that and if it can be siloed by subscription. The short answer is yeah, of course that can be done. That's actually like one line of code to just say that data field can never be a duplicate. That's actually pretty easy. Um, but does it have any other unintended consequences or implications across the system that would be detrimental? I just need to think through that. But the short answer is yes, it can be done. The long answer is let's think about if it should be done, and if so, how, and make sure that it doesn't negatively impact any other aspect of the system. Somebody else may have a different use case for some reason that I'm just not thinking about. Okay,
No, of course, of course. I mean, that's
cool.
part of what you
Great
wanted this
suggestion.
for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the feedback, really. You
I
have
got a
one,
quick
Charlie?
one.
Yep.
Um, so an issue I ran into at first when we were doing the records and the sound equipment, after like I think they said 2 or 3 pictures, the identification started kind of, I guess, tripping over itself, if that makes sense. Like things
Mhm.
just got kind of skewed. Is that something that y'all foresee improving over time, or is that something where it's just 2 pictures and then search and then go back in and take more?
Yeah, and we've gone back and forth on this. Computer vision is a little tricky, quality of picture. There's a lot of variables beyond just the number of pictures. And first of all, let me just tell you that currently in this system, it only looks at the first three pictures anyway. So the four, five, six wouldn't have any impact whatsoever. Um, so the best answer I can give you what you can do to help us right now and help yourself get different views and get any markings, like identifiable understamps in those first three pictures. Those first three pictures are what matter most at the moment. And then is it going
Okay.
to improve? It's going to improve in some ways. The way we fine tune our internal prompts to help it improve will improve. And some of it is out of our control, which is the actual base layer computer vision technology that we build our platform on. As those models improve, which you guys see that in public, they improve every week at this point. It's crazy. The new model comes out and we switch to that new best model, and that's one thing we stay on top of. By the way, we're not married to any of these specific public LLMs. Like we're not one day. I mean, one day we could be on one chat GPT model doing one thing. Another day we might be on Gemini, another day we might be on Claude, another day we might be on Mistral. It depends on what the purpose is. It depends on our evaluations of the speed and accuracy of the new models as they come out, and they come out literally. And that was kind of my point to you, Charlie. If you try to stay on top of all that and learn all that immediately, it'll drown you, but we stay on top of that. So yes, of course it's going to improve. It's going to improve globally. It's going to improve internal to Listernaut, and it's going to improve as your skill of how to master the system improves as well. Those are the three variables.
Actually, I do have another question about that for
Yep.
Charlie's. So you got the photos, all right?
Yep.
Let's say you have three pieces. You take pictures of the um, serial tags of each piece.
Yep.
All right. You'll get the description of all three pieces. The problem is now once you have the catalog, you have to modify the photos around. Is there a way to take those pieces, the first three photos, and then have them drop as like photos dash 100, 101, 102 versus 1, 2, and 3? So now they go back to the back of your file folder because you want to show the pictures of the nice assets by themselves without those tags being in the front.
I'm gonna make sure that I
You want me to rephrase that for you, Mark?
go for it, Jeff. I mean, I know you have the
I,
ability to
so
go up and down
yeah,
now and drag and drop photo orders.
yeah,
So
I think really what this is a great point is just think of taking an asset, cataloging a vehicle. The VIN is going to get you the most information. The door plate's going to get the second information, the most information, and maybe just the overall picture of the car is going to tie it all together. I think what Brandon's asking is, even though those are the focal point of the AI research, he doesn't want that VIN plate or the door to be the lead photo. He wants, the front, the side, the back, the front, et cetera. So being able to manage what photos in the range are going to be those first three, so to speak. How do you like juggle the first three versus the three that you really want?
yeah, you've got an identification problem there of you want to use certain photos for identification purposes, but then you want to use different photos for customer facing attractiveness, or what I would call salience. That's the question. Well,
Did I explain that
yeah,
okay, Brandon?
Yeah, pretty much. Or if you have multiple items in a lot, if you have three items in a lot, I mean, the car vehicle identification is a great example of it as well. But I think if you program the program to sit there and say the first three photos are going to be 100, a dash 100, whatever, 100, 101, 102, and then the other ones get numbered 1 dash 1, 1 dash 2, 1 dash 3, or whatever. All right, and then it pops first, and the catalog is 1, 2, 3. It saves everybody. I mean, if you've got a 500 lot catalog, you have to go through and reorganize every photo in there. It's a lot of human interfacing.
It's similar to the lot sticker, Mark.
yeah, I got it.
Just think of it like the barcode sticker. We're dropping that one.
I'm writing down a note. The ability to save array, because we save those in an array of items um, by number and some selection process. Let's say you have 10 photos that you're using in the whole lot. Can you identify which ones in advance will be used for the post versus the ones that are all
You don't
sent to AI for identification? Got it.
you don't need to identify them. You just have to sit there and say the first. If you can only pull three photos for AI, the first
Hmm.
three photos of the lot have to be, or will have to go to the end. So if the person takes 10 photos or 100, or 60 photos, it's not going to matter because the next number after those is going to be like 100 lots later or what, or 100 items later.
Hmm. Got it.
So you'd still, it would just be identification in order, in numerical order, and the
Hmm.
first three would have to be numbered. The first three would have to be numbered far enough back where you'd have all the other photos kept. if I knew that I had to take the information photos first and then take the actual photos of how I want displayed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 afterwards, you could do it that way.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. I like it.
We'll get
That's
back to you on that one,
yeah.
for sure. It's a great
That's
idea.
that's data structure handling. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Mark, thanks
Mhm.
for your insight and sharing that with the team. Thank you for everybody for being here. We can't do it without you. And we'll be continuing this series as we grow and learning from our customers and sharing some knowledge as we go. So thank you, everybody. We'll send this recording out probably before 5 today, if not sooner. And look forward to seeing you and have a great Memorial Day weekend. Go Pacers.
Happy Memorial Day.